So risk is an uncertain event. If it occurs, will create an impact on my project, and that impact will be either positive or negative. So let me draw that for you. Maybe I will draw it like this. Risk is an uncertain event. Risk is an uncertain event. If it occurs, if it occurs, it will create an impact on my project objectives. And this impact can be impact will be on what? What will get impacted?
It may impact schedule, cost, and
Yes,
quality.
basically your objectives of the project, scope, quality, time, and cost. So there will be an impact that will be created by the risk that has occurred, and that impact can be either positive or negative. Correct?
Yes.
So all the risks, all the uncertainties in the project, which will create a positive impact, we basically call them as opportunities.
Opportunity.
By dictionary meaning of risk, we always think that risk is something which creates a negative impact, but doesn't necessarily mean that it's always negative. Okay. Opportunities, and also we have threats, positive and negative. So predominantly our risk management will be revolving around these threats. So we will predominantly focus on threats, because if you miss an opportunity, or if you fail to effectively manage an opportunity, the damage that it will create might be lesser, or most of the times it will be lesser than the damage if a threat is mishandled, if mismanaged. No, the damage that the threat that is mismanaged will create will be much more than a damage that an opportunity that is missed will might create. Most of the times, it may not be always, but yeah, most of the times. So predominantly we will be discussing around the risks, and most of the questions around in the exam will also be around the threats, the risks related to threats. But that should not limit our understanding or our focus to only threats. In case if they are speaking about the context, or if that particular situation speaks about opportunities or positive risks, then yes, certainly we should consider positive risks as well. Okay, good. Now,
Sir, can
yeah,
you please explain about this positive opportunity? Positive impact.
opportunities. So
Uh,
can you give me any examples of opportunities is what your question is, right?
yeah.
Yeah. So now, um, let us say, now we have seen a lot of automobile or companies that have come into India. So most of these automobile companies, when they launched their products into India, it is like in collaboration with other organizations. For example, if you take Hero Honda. Honda is a Japanese company and Hero is an Indian company. So these guys have a market presence, and those guys have technology. So there is an opportunity to collaborate and then kind of create a market here. So obviously they came together, and we have seen Hero Honda or Kawasaki Bajaj or any of these things that have created a big storm in the market. So this whole they did very well. The uncertainty is how do they come into the market. Honda company. Okay, for uncertainty for Hero guys is how do I get the technology, how do I build the product. So there is an significant amount of uncertainty between these two, but when they collaborated, when they had a joint venture, so that uncertainty is translated into an opportunity for both the organizations. So that is what I mean when I say opportunities. Yeah, is it okay,
Okay.
Arjun? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right. So now the risks generally, when we speak about uncertainties which will create an impact, there are multiple ways in which we categorize these risks and look into it. Like for example, one way of categorization is based on the impact that the risks will create. The risks which will create only positive impact or pure negative impact, only negative impact. Only negative impact creating risks. These risks, we call them as pure risks. Okay. And the risks which will create either positive or negative impact. We don't know what they are, but it can create either positive or negative. For example, dollar rate fluctuations are there. So any fuel ups and downs, fuel rate fluctuation, any thing that you're dealing with global market. So generally what happens, we don't have much control on these things. So based on the global market, these things will go up and down. So we don't have much control on that. So what we will do is we will basically go and uh, take that uncertainty. It might, if dollar rate falls down, we might get more money. If the dollar rate goes up, we might lose some money. Either this or that can happen, either positive or negative. So these risks, we call them as business risks. So just to categorize and have visibility on the risks and to ensure that we are on the right direction when it comes to the risks. So that is what we call as business risks. Now, other way of classifying is based on the characteristics of the risk. When you say a risk, how many risks in your project will you be able to identify?
Not
Yeah,
all, definitely.
not all, definitely. So how many ever risks you identify, there'll always be some new risks that will be created. So these kind of risks that based on the quality of knowing or unknowing, we can also have a classification. For example, we can say that I have risks which I have identified, which are known to me, and risks which I have not known, which I don't know. Unknown risks and known risks, I can say. If I say no known risks, what does it mean? Will we be able to know every attribute of the risk, all the attributes of the risk? When will it happen? What will it do? Everything? Will we be able to do that?
No.
No, most of the times no. Right? So even though the risk is known, there will be many elements that will be unknown to it. When will it happen? What impact will it create? So all these things will still be unknown, uncertainty. So I'll add that as known unknown. And we have unknown risks. By default, anyway, it is unknown, and the impact and all other elements also are unknown. Known risks and unknown risks, known unknowns and unknown unknowns. Known unknowns, okay, at least you have identified that there is some risk, so you can go and do something about it. But what about unknown unknowns? What do we do with these unknown unknowns?
We need to wait till risk occurs.
We need to wait till risk occurs. Okay, good. One point. I'll come back to you on this. Let's listen from others. Yeah. Anyone else?
Maybe
What do
we
we
have
do
to.
with this
We can,
known unknown unknowns? Known unknowns, at least, okay, I know that there is something like that, but unknown unknowns, what do we do?
we can keep some cushion.
Then it's a known risk, right?
Then it becomes a known risk.
No, no, no.
Hmm. See,
We
when
have
you
to wait
don't,
for the event, right? Just
when you don't know anything, when you don't know something, then basically it is completely uncertain to you. You can't really do anything about it. So all that you can do here in this case is you have to handle it in such a way that your responsibility or that responsibility of such risks is not there on your shoulder. If you are not carrying that ownership of unknown unknowns, then who will carry that? To whom should you give that ownership or responsibility of managing that risks, unknown unknowns? We handle it by keeping aside a reserve called as. So whenever a contract comes into picture, whenever a contract comes,
uh, hello.
sorry, I went on mute. Yeah. So management reserve. Management reserve is the reserve which management will keep it aside from the contract value for any unknown, unforeseen risk like this, unknown unknowns.
Are we talking about the cost or schedule? What is this reserve?
Sorry, come again.
What is this reserve? Is it the cost? Is the budget? Or
Yeah, budget or time, anything it can be.
okay,
It can be time as well.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now unknown unknowns, we completely leave it onto management. Management reserve will should handle it. And known unknowns are something which we need to take action on. We need to work on it. Now, in one of our discussions, one of us said that I will go and wait for the risk to occur. How should this risk management approach be? Should we really wait for the risk to occur? I'll show you one slide. Okay. So can you see the picture on the slide? Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you see in the first picture, the first half of the picture, there is one guy standing with a spear in his hand, and there are some animals which are kind of uh, coming on his way. So
Godzilla.
he, yeah, sorry,
Dinosaur.
yeah, dinosaur, whatever. So he thought that these animals are too small. These dinosaurs are too small to attack him now. So he don't need to take action. So he just left them. And sometime later, when he's again crossing some other path, the same dinosaurs. Now you look at the size in the second picture. Now, will the spear in his hand help him?
Actually not. Yes.
May not be. So the essence of this picture is if you don't actively attack the risks will actively attack you. So actively attack the risk means you don't wait for the risk to occur. You don't wait for the dinosaur to become big and then you start using your spear. That is not active attacking. You have to anticipate that this dinosaur might become big and it might harm you. When it is small itself, when it has not occurred, when the dinosaur is not in a situation to attack you itself, you have to anticipate that and actively attack it.
Will this be a known unknown or unknown unknown?
Yes, of
This
course,
is
dinosaur is known unknown. No, you
known
identified
unknown.
it, right?
Yeah, yeah. That was told for unknown unknown, right? Waiting for the risk to happen. That was for unknown unknown.
Correct. Unknown. Is it? Is it so?
I think I'm not sure. I'm not the one who said it. I think it's
Unknown. Only after it happens, we will get to
yeah,
know.
that's what.
That is the point.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Anyway, so if you don't actively attack the risks will actively attack you. So it means that even before the risk has occurred, you should go and actively attack the risk. It means that you have to be proactive when managing the risks. Okay. So you have to proactively manage the risk. Make sense?
Yes.
Now, when the risk has not occurred, how will you proactively manage? How will you manage them proactively when the risk has not occurred? The risk has not happened. It didn't occur yet. When something is not there, what action will you take? And remember, risk is always futuristic. Risk is never past. Well, the moment the risk has occurred, what will it become?
Um, impediment.
Good. In agile language, it is impediment. In project management, we call it as an issue. You know, in
Yeah,
general project management, we call it as an issue. A risk that has occurred can be considered as an issue. Okay. Now, if you have to proactively manage the risks, how will you manage the risks proactively? Even before the risk has occurred, you need to take some action. We will take an action on what?
Yeah, we have to do the risk management plan. Like,
No, risk management plan doesn't speak anything about the action that you need to take. If you have to take an action, we have to act on what? That is my question. On what you should act?
prevent the risk from happening.
Correct. You have to prevent a risk from act. You have to take an action
the source of
which
the risk.
will
Yeah.
exactly, source of the risk. You have to go and identify the source of the risk. That source of the risk, we call it as a cause. Every risk will basically have a cause. So that cause can be a requirement, can be a condition, can be a situation in your project, or can be a person in your project, your assumptions, what you have made, the constraints that you have on your project. Any of this can be a cause. And this cause will lead into a risk, which might create an impact positively or negatively. So when you say I want to go and proactively manage my risk, it means that I have to go and proactively take an action on these causes. You need to identify the causes and proactively take an action on the causes. So in order to take this action on the causes, we have been given with a few processes that will help us do this proactive management. And these are the processes that we speak about. Yeah. So plan risk management, it starts with, and then we will go into identifying the risks, performing the analysis, plan risk responses. With this, we will close the plan, but that is not limiting us from there alone. So we have to go and implement the responses and audit or monitor the risks also, we will see. Now, when you go and say that I am going to perform these processes in order to manage the risks proactively. What should we do?
Sorry, sir, could you repeat the question? I'm not getting.
No, if you say that I have to manage the risks proactively, where should we start?
You have to identify it first.
Before even identification, we need to go and plan for the risks.
Okay,
So
it's like you have to call for the meeting, risk workshop.
yeah, that is part of identification. Also, you call for workshops. That is fine.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
now, just a moment. Let me go and remove this. It's not planning process overview, but the entire process overview. So I'll just remove that part. So risk management includes everything. Maybe I'll just remove the planning part alone. All right. Okay. Just a moment. I don't know why my OneNote is behaving weirdly now. Just a moment, please. Yeah. All right, I'm back. Excuse me. Now, what should be there before we go and start the other risk activities? So the first and foremost, what we need to build is the risk management plan. So what should be there as part of risk management plan?
Scope, baseline scope.
No, risk management plan will not contain scope.
The risk categories.
Okay, risk categories. Before even you go into the categories, risk categories will be there. But before even going there, I would
We
say the
need to
risk.
identify number of risks.
Hmm?
Number of risks involved in
The risk methodology. So are you following a PMI's framework, ISO's framework? Which methodology are you following? Yeah. Then,
Is it the stakeholder?
sorry,
The stakeholders?
roles and responsibilities, I would say. The stakeholders is a very broad term, so I will not use it here. Roles and responsibilities, who will perform the risk management activities? Good. What else?
A method of mitigation, maybe. How do you mitigate it?
That is there little later. We will do it as part of risk register, but not.
The time and effort required to resolve the risk.
Okay, the timelines. No. The timelines in which we will perform the risk management activities.
Priority of based on the priorities, right?
Yeah. Categorization. Okay, so we also call it as risk breakdown structure. So how will this help? We will see when you're identifying the risks. Basically, categorization will help us to assign the preliminary ownership, and also it helps us to combine multiple risks which are similar in nature into one bigger risk, major risk. So that is also there. And then
Probability of how much the risk will or how the risk will occur.
but that for that you have to identify risks, but your risk management plan will not contain risks. Remember that. You haven't identified the risk. If you have identified the risk, then you can ask how much probability that this risk will occur. Then it makes sense.
Okay.
But we have not identified the risk yet.
The tracking, how we'll track the risk?
The methodology, it'll keep a track of it. So I would say stakeholders' risk attitude. How does it matter? This is important. Now, generally, stakeholders' attitude towards risk really matters the way in which we approach risk management in our projects. So stakeholder risk attitude, generally we measure it in terms of the risk appetite, the risk thresholds, and the risk tolerances. Appetite, when it comes to this, is he a risk seeker? Is the stakeholder or organization risk seeker, risk neutral, or risk averse? What does these mean? How many of us invest in shares?
I do.
You do. Okay, good. How many of us invest in mutual funds?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do that.
Yeah, and how many of us invest in fixed deposits? Fixed deposits.
I used to do it, not now.
Not now. Okay. Somebody else might do it in fixed. What is the difference between these three categories of us?
The risk. The risk.
Absolutely. The amount of risk we are willing to take varies from person to person. So you, because you're investing in share market, we are saying that you are carrying the highest risk. But why are you taking that risk? You are not taking the risk without any calculations, is it not?
Yes.
You are taking that risk in anticipation of reward. Okay. Now, whoever is investing in fixed deposits, he will get the least reward because he's not taking the risk. So great deeds are always wrought after great risk. So if you take great risk, it will generally give you the equal rewards. But the thing is, you should not, it should be calculated. It should be calculated. Otherwise, we'll end up paying more. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Then, what about the thresholds and tolerances? See, why I'm saying this is, now let us say Varaprasad has lost some 10,000 rupees in share market. When he's doing the trading, he lost 10,000 rupees. And same, let's say Arjun has lost 10,000 rupees in fixed deposits. So will Varaprasad really bother about losing 10,000 rupees in share market?
Definitely not.
Definitely not.
Because I'm prepared for that and I've taken that.
Correct. Yeah. But at the same time, Arjun, if he loses 10,000 rupees in his fixed deposit, there is a big point of concern.
Yeah. That's not expected.
It's not expected. So this is how the stakeholders' attitude towards risk will change. If the stakeholder is risk averse, our approach itself should be changed. So we have to be overcautious. We have to be more cautious. We have to do the risk management activities very often, because the stakeholder is not accepted, not willing to take risk, or not kind of risk seeker. So it's better that we handle him carefully. Understand?
Yes.
Yeah. In the same way, when it comes to a risk seeker, we might increase the bar or increase the number of the timeline in which we perform the risk and all these things. We will might little be liberal in terms of that. Now, coming to threshold and tolerances, these also we need to understand. Let us say there is one room in a factory. That room gets filled with smoke. So every time the room gets filled with smoke, what happens? There are two alarms that you have put in. So the first alarm will ring when the room gets filled with smoke, to an extent where the people working in the room should wear a mask. People should wear a mask. And if further, they'll wear a mask and then continue to working. A further second alarm will ring when the room gets filled with too much of smoke, that people inside should vacate the room and go off. They cannot continue. That is the second alarm. Now, which one is threshold? Which one is tolerance in these two?
A1 is tolerance and A2 is threshold.
Actually, it is the reverse. A2 is the tolerance. Tolerance is defined as the point beyond which you cannot handle it anymore. So the A2 rings beyond, it means it indicates that the people who are wearing the mask and continuing also will not be able to handle it. So they have to vacate the room. And the threshold is the range in which you operate. So this is my threshold. You have to wear a mask and continue to work. So I reached the threshold, so I'll change my state and continue to work. I wear a mask and continue to work. So that is threshold. So this stakeholders' attitude also should be documented in your risk management plan. Okay. So along with this, the reporting formats, how will you report the risk management or activities for your risks? Then we have the tools that we can use now. We have Intaverse Risky Project Professional. Risky Project is the application name from Intower. Oracle's risk analysis or risk master, Oracle's system is there. So any of the tools which your organization has embraced or would like to use. So those things we can go and add it to that. So once you prepare this plan, then we will go and start identifying the risks. Who all will give us the risks?
Every stakeholder.
Any stakeholder in the project can give a risk. So these risks, when you go and identify, so these document them in a document called risk register. So this risk register basically contains the list of risks, risk A and risk B, and you use categorization to go and merge the risks and bring it as one particular risk. So all these exceptions or this thing, you do it and finally come out with the set of identified risks for your project.
No, this is not a part of risk management plan, is it?
No, never. Risk management plan will not contain risks. Risk register only will contain. Remember that. Any management plan, schedule management plan doesn't contain schedule.
Yeah, we only planned that. Okay.
Yeah, it only it's a strategic document. What it says, like how are you going to go forward?
Okay.
Okay. So the name of the risk, maybe type of the risk, positive risk or negative risk. And then the immediate next question, whenever the stakeholder tells you that, okay, this is the risk that I have seen, then what should be the next question?
Impact.
Probability and impact. So what is the chance that this risk will occur in my project? And if it occurs, what will be the impact that it will create? Let us say on a scale of 0 to 1 probability and on a scale of 0 to 1 impact. Now on a scale of 0 to 1, risk A is having a probability of 0.9 and an impact of 0.2, and risk B having a probability of 0.3 and impact of 0.7. Now, which risk do you think is more important for me?
B.
B. Why?
Because of impact is higher side.
Impact is higher, but there is an equal chance that that risk might not occur in my project altogether.
If it occurs,
If it occurs, impact will be more, but most of the times it might not occur. But if you look at the other way, risk A, impact is less, but I'm very sure that it might occur. Now tell me, what do you think? Which one do you think is more important?
B.
A or B?
That sure means that probability.
Sorry?
Even
The
No.
the high probability one, that is more important.
no.
Both.
According
Both are
to me,
important.
it's a high impact one that because if it occurs, it is what is basically we are trying to do it. We are trying to lessen the impact or mitigate it.
Mhm.
That's the reason I go for this high
Okay.
impact one.
But on the
Even though
other
the probability
hand,
is less, if it occurs, it will disturb the this thing, right?
correct. On the other hand, if you look at it, even if the impact is less,
There is impact.
it is going to be sure. Damn sure impact will be there. So now, which one do you think is more important is my question, and then that has created a lot of buzz. So to avoid this unambiguity, generally what we recommend is go and multiply this. So that is called as risk exposure or risk score. Okay, so that will give us 0.18 and 0.21. Now, which one is more important?
B.
The
Correct.
highest risk exposure.
Correct. Whichever is having a high score, you have to sort your risk register based on it. And then the risks with high score will come up, risks with low score will go down. So this is what we do as part of qualitative risk analysis. Sort the risk register and bring the high priority risks to the top and low priority risks to the bottom. So these low priority risks which are brought down to the bottom, we call them as watch list. What is a watch list?
Low exposure.
Exposure is
Low
less.
exposure risks which are brought in. So now where do we draw that line and say that below this is low exposure, above this is high exposure? Where do you draw that line? On what basis will you draw that line? Based on stakeholders' attitude. So if the stakeholder is a risk seeker, maybe
Yeah.
about 0.5 and above can be considered as high risk. If a stakeholder is risk aver, 0.3 itself is high risk. Okay, So you have to do this analysis and build your probability and risk and impact matrix. So this matrix will be there as part of your plan. And we'll see one sample matrix now, which I'm going to show you. This is a sample probability and impact matrix. So if you see the negative impact, very low, low, moderate, high, very high on x-axis, and y-axis is the probability, and same probability and impact for opportunities. And then the intersection points in the grid are the risk scores. Now, any risk that falls in this gray zone, dark gray zone, so that is called as high priority risks. And risks with medium priority in the light gray zone and white is a low priority risk. So by default, this is the watch list, the white one. And medium priority risks and high priority risks, if the stakeholders are risk averse, then medium priority risk also we will consider and take action. If the stakeholders are risk seekers, then we also can add them into watch list, medium priority risks. So like this, we will go and do an analysis, build a probability and impact matrix, keep it ready in the plan. And based on that, you decide below this number, okay, anything above 46 or above 0.5, I will go and consider that as high priority risk. Below that 0.5, I will consider that as low priority risk. So all these things we have to do this exercise and create this watch list. Now there is one more challenge when it comes to doing this qualitative analysis is when you're asking for the rating on the impact. Now here risk A they said 0.2, and for risk B they said 0.7. Now when you're asking for this impact to the stakeholders, this impact, the rating of the impact is again based on their perceptions. For example, a 1% cost increase for a 1 million project, or 5% cost increase for 1 million project. Is it a high risk? Is it a high impact for the project manager? As a project manager, you answer that. 5% cost increase for a 1 million project.
Yes,
$1 million project.
Yeah, it's high.
As a project manager, it may not be definitely. How many times did you deliver the projects with less than 5% schedule and cost overruns? Yeah. In your experience, you tell me, how many times have you delivered without 5% slippage in terms of schedule and cost?
0%.
Sorry?
Almost never. I mean, there is always a overrun.
Yeah, always an overrun, right? 5% is negligible for projects team.
Yes.
But if the same question, if you ask a guy from finance, he will rate it as 0.8 or 0.9. And project manager or project team guy will rate it as 0.1 or 2. So to avoid this unambiguity again, the risk management plan provides a direction. So that we call it as impact rating guidelines. So based on stakeholders' attitude, we will prepare these guidelines and keep it. And the questioning process of the project manager itself will change. Instead of asking the stakeholders to rate the impact, now he'll ask a question, what is the impact that you're anticipating? Less than 5% cost increase, 5 to 10% cost increase, 10 to 20% cost increase, or greater than 20% cost increase? How much are you anticipating? You tell me. If the project manager says that no, I'm anticipating more than around 5 to 10% cost increase, then I'll consider I have a rating guideline here. So if it is 5 to 10% cost increase, it should be considered as 0.2. If it is less than 5% cost increase, it should be considered as low risk, low cost. So this is something which we need to really consider when we are doing the impact assessment and we are doing the qualitative analysis. We need to question the stakeholders in these lines. Tell me what will be the impact in terms of cost, schedule, scope, or quality. Then based on that, I will take the rating. So this rating, 5 to 10% cost increase based on the customer and the organization's perspective, it is more moderate. For some organizations, this might be more high. It just might fall in this category if they're risk averse, like that. So this is how we will build a impact rating guideline, and then we will take up this qualitative risk analysis. Once we are done with the qualitative risk analysis, the topmost priority risks. Now, if you have identified about 1,000 risks, maybe you might have around 10 risks as top priority, rest all in the watch list. So out of these 10, one or two of these 10, we will take it for quantitative analysis. So in quantitative analysis, this is a place where you go and quantify, as the name suggests. So the impact here, we are doing it as a rating based on a scale on our judgment. Now you will go and quantify this impact and multiply with the probability. So when you do this quantification of impact and multiply with probability, basically what happens is you will get something called as expected monetary value. Okay, now let us go and quickly see one simple example of how this expected monetary value is done. This is used, we are using, in this case, we are using a decision tree analysis to do this expected monetary value analysis. So let us go and say, so now I have to take a decision between following an aggressive schedule or a conservative schedule. So aggressive schedule means you commit a tighter deadline and try to deliver early to the customer. A conservative schedule means you commit a relaxed deadline and literally deliver little late. So if you follow an aggressive schedule, there is a probability of you, excuse me, going out or completing it on time or getting delayed. Similarly, the probability of on-time completion, because you are having a tight deadlines, the probability of on-time completion is very less. So you'll have only 20% probability of on-time completion. At the same time, it means that 80% of the time you might get delayed. Okay. Let's see this. If you follow a conservative schedule, there is still chance that you might get delayed. Conservative schedule doesn't guarantee you that you are going to complete it. I mean, you are going to deliver the project definitely on time. It might get delayed in that way also, but the probability of delaying will be very less. Probability of on-time completion will be very high. So if you follow a conservative schedule, because you're already given more time, you're completing it 70% of the time, you will be able to complete it on time. 30% chance that it might get delayed. So 70% of the time, if I complete it on time, what is the impact out of it? So if I complete it on time, what am I getting? If I get delayed, what am I losing? So that is what the impact that we are speaking about. So that I will take it in terms of money, a monetary value. So aggressive schedule, if I follow aggressive schedule and if I complete it on time, because I'm taking more risk, I'm going to get the outcome as $100,000. I'm taking more risk, so more is the reward. So at present, there's only chance that 20% of the time I'll be able to complete it on time. So it is $20,000. Okay. There is 80% chance that they might get delayed. So it means that because you're already taking a good amount of risk, the penalty will not be more. You'll be penalized, but it will be relatively less. $15,000 is what you're losing. 80% chance that $50,000 you lose. So 80% into 0.8 into 15,000 is $12,000 minus, because I'm losing it. Now the same exercise, if I do it with conservative schedule, if I take more time and still get delayed, penalty will be more. I'll be losing more. Take more time and still get delayed. I have to hold back resources for more time. I have to, obviously the project billing increases. So all these things you need to consider, and then you will have to take a call. Okay. So if you complete it on time, because you're already taking more time, the reward will not be more. So reward is only $10,000 you're going to make because you're not taking risk. So at present, when you multiply with probability, this is what the expected monetary value of each node or each branch in this decision tree gives us. When I go and add these two, plus 20,000 minus 12,000, I will get an expected monetary value of aggressive schedule. So that is $8,000. Similarly, plus 7,000 minus 6,000, when I add it, I will get $1,000 as expected monetary value for conservative schedule. Now, which one do you think is more attractive?
Aggressive.
Aggressive schedule. So you go and follow that. Whichever is having higher expected monetary value, you will have to go and take a call to go and do that. So the topmost priority risks, most of the top priority risks, we will be taking it to quantitative analysis and again reprioritize the risk register based on the new analysis. Always remember, if you find in any question saying that the quantitative risk analysis will never touch watch list. The watch list is prepared in qualitative risk analysis and it is done. Quantitative risk analysis will not touch watch list.
Yeah, we are only talking about the high priority ones.
Topmost of the top priority, high priority risks. Okay, so those only are the only things that we will consider, not all.
And Prashant, I have a question.
Yes, please go ahead, Prashant.
We were talking about this risk appetite, right?
Mm.
Risk appetite can be seen in where there is an opportunity, right?
Correct.
Only for
Absolutely.
Only we are only concentrating on the negative impact.
That is what I said during my initial this thing. So the damage that a unmanaged threat will create will always be more than the damage that an unmanaged opportunity will create.
Okay.
So predominantly we will be biased towards threats.
Okay.
At the same time, not ignoring the opportunities.
Okay.
But primary focus will always be on threats. That is the industry practice I'm saying.
Okay, but we have classified them into this based on the appetite. We are drawing a line, right?
Correct. Correct.
Why will somebody have an appetite for negative threats? I don't know.
Appetite can be seeker, neutral, or averse.
Yeah, that's what
he can be averse for neutral. At the same time, he can be seeker for opportunity. Both can be there. These two are two different things.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. You try to understand the concept from consider only threats to begin with, and then understand it. Then we will add opportunities over that. That will make our life simple.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
All right. Good. So after this, we create the quantitative analysis and reprioritize the risk register. Then we will move into the responses. So what are the risk responses? So we have to respond to both opportunities as well as threats. So let's go and put it across. So this is again the risk responses that I'm updating in my risk register. So there are only predominantly two documents that I'm preparing: risk management plan and my risk register. That's it. Responses are part of risk register. So in fact, here there'll be one more column called responses. Good. Now, basically, there are some strategies what we follow for these responses. One, we call it as one thing that is common for both is escalate. So you escalate both the risks. Escalate is simply making it open with all the stakeholders. So that is what we call it as escalate. And when it comes to threats, we should try to avoid a threat. How do you avoid a threat? Let us take an example of you constructing your own house. A simple thing which you'll be able to relate it better. Now, if you plan to lay slab in the month of August or September, there's a high probability that it will rain, correct? So slab might get impacted. So you have to avoid that. First of all, I'll try to avoid it. How do I avoid rain?
Avoid laying the slab.
Without slab, you can't complete your building. Then you plan or develop your schedule in such a way that you will have this slab laying activity in the month of April or May instead of August and September. So you're completely avoiding the risk, no? Risk of raining. So that is what we call it as avoidance. April or May, if I have it, then I'll avoid it. Now I can't do that in April or May. I don't have the engineer available, the architect available. Now nobody is available. I can't have it in the month of April or May. Then what should I do?
Postpone.
I can't move it. These guys are only available during month of August and September. I can't avoid it at all. I can neither postpone it nor prepone it. Then what should I do? I should mitigate the risks. How do I mitigate the risk? What is the meaning of mitigation?
Reduce.
Reduce the impact. Excuse me. Correct. Reduce the impact. How will I reduce the impact? Instead of
additional resources.
Correct. Instead of having not additional resources, instead of using a regular cement, I will use an instant setting cement. So what will the instant setting cement does? What will it do?
Increase the price, like
half an hour. Yeah, obviously it comes with a cost, and in half an hour it will set. So
Yeah,
even if
reduce
it
the
rains, the impact will not be more. Whatever the area that we have laid in the last half an hour only will get impacted. The other areas will get dried up. I reduce the impact. Instead of laying the entire slab, if it rains, I'm laying only one particular area which is done in the last half an hour, relaying it. That's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
If I can't do that, then what should I do?
At least go based on the weather forecast. Try to put the slab on a non-rainy day.
Hyderabad weather forecast and all won't work, ma'am. From morning onwards, it is showing thunderstorms, and I'm sweating a lot since morning. And now only it started raining in our area. And Hyderabad forecast, they'll give it for the whole city, and it rains in one road, it doesn't rain in the adjacent road. What will you tell that? So if you are there in such situation, you have to transfer it. How do you transfer? What is the meaning of transference?
By laying the covers on the roof.
That is not transferring. Okay, you're transferring water from. No, that is not transferring.
No. We transfer the risk.
How?
Maybe to the builder. Give a fixed price, and it's his responsibility to
Wonderful, wonderful. One way of transferring the risk is using the contract type. Instead of cost reimbursement contracts, I will use a fixed price contracts. So these fixed price contracts will basically go and do what? Transfer the risk to the builder. Whatever it occurs, he has to lay the slab and give it to me. Within this, he has to do it. So that is the transference. Or other way of transferring is buying an insurance policy. Insure your slab. You know, that is also possible. So
Yes,
whether it is, sorry, yeah.
Prashant, quick question.
Yeah, go ahead, Arshita.
So when we like the contract,
Hmm.
can we change it in the middle? Like because or
If
all
both
this we are
parties
talking
agrees,
about initially during the before the planning phase.
if both parties agrees,
Oh, okay.
if both the parties agree, you can.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. If that is not possible, then you'll accept it. And acceptance, let me come back to it again. Now, in the same case, when it comes to the opportunities, if you're avoiding it, you exploit it. The senior most resource just got released from another project. Exploit the situation, bring him onto your project, it'll add value. Here you're reducing the impact, here you enhance the impact. There are team members available on bench. So instead of keeping them free, use them, ask them to do the peer testing so that the defects will be very less. Additional testing cycles can be done with them. Enhance the impact of their availability. Transfer, share. This is what the joint ventures that we spoke about. And when you can't do anything, accept it. And when it comes to accepting the threats, so threats, when you accept it, it will create an impact. So we have two ways in which we do it. One, we call it as active acceptance. And the other one, we call it as passive acceptance. Passive acceptance means, okay, आने दो यार, आने के बाद देख लेंगे. Let it happen, we'll see. Once it happens, I'll go and try to find a workaround. Okay, if it rains, then as you said, I will bring in the tarpaulin covers and then cover my slab so that it won't work. Or yeah, let us see what happens. It won't rain, or as you said, okay, on a non-rainy day I will try to put. And if it suddenly rains, I'll use tarpaulin cars. So there is a passive acceptance. आने दो, आने के बाद देख लेंगे. But if it is active acceptance, okay, my slab will cost me 1 lakh. So I will add additional 1 lakh just in case if it rains and everything gets washed away, all the cement gets washed away. I will have to spend for cement and the stone again. So I will put 1 lakh aside. So it will cost me 1 lakh. So I analyzed it, I anticipated it, and with a calculation, I'm putting this in picture. So this, yeah, that is called contingency. So always remember, contingency reserve is only used for actively accepted risks. The other risks that we that we have planned, avoid. How do you avoid? I modified the schedule. So when you're implementing this strategy, you need to take an action. So that is what you do as part of your implement risk responses process. So you will, when you go and implement the risk responses, the strategy will be translated into an action. There will be an action that is linked to it. How do I avoid? Accelerate the schedule or delay the schedule. You replan, you know. So you go and necessarily go and make modifications to the respective processes. The other process that you're speaking about, make changes, update to the plan and documents. Mitigate. How will you mitigate? Use an instant setting cement, but it will cost, no? Increase the cost. Go revise your cost baseline. So as a part of implementing the responses, this is what we do. Revise your cost baseline. Then transfer, same. When you're buying an insurance premium, you need to pay money. If you're outsourcing it, you need to pay money, fixed price or whatever it is. That money should go on. So revise your cost baseline. And when you accept, you go and add contingency. Add contingency into the cost baseline. Not only cost baseline, might be schedule baseline as well. Whatever contingency you are adding, whether it's schedule or cost, you will go and do that. Okay, so this is how you go and implement the risk responses. When it comes to monitoring risk responses, this process is very interesting. I will explain it to you in one tree diagram. Okay, so monitor risks process basically starts with one question: did the risk occur? So you have to keep monitoring. Did the risk occur? If it has occurred, yes, possibility is yes or a no. If it has occurred, then is it identified? Or no? If it didn't occur, then update watch list, keep an eye on the watch list and update watch list and continue. And if it is identified, again, when you ask a question, is it identified? Yes or no? If it is not identified, then what is it called as? It is not identified, but still it has occurred.
Unknown, right?
Unknown. Very good. It's a unknown.
Update the risk register.
No. You might update the risk register, but unknowns, the first primary thing is raise a change request to use management reserve. What did we say? Unknowns should be handled with management reserve. So project manager won't take it from his budget or from his schedule. So that's what we said. Unknowns are handled with management reserve. Is it not?
Okay.
Yeah. So if it is not identified, it's an unknown, and I will handle it through management reserve. If it is identified, so it means that I know that there is a risk. If it is identified, then what will I do?
Risk response.
Then the next question is it accepted? It can be yes, it might be accepted, or it is no. If it is not accepted, then you might have planned for another response. Correct?
Yeah.
Is the response implemented? So you're measuring the effectiveness of the response. Yes or no. If it is no, raise CR and recommend improvements to the process. Raise CR and document an issue. Issue should be raised. Okay. And if the response is implemented, is it effective? Is the response effective to move the risk from red zone or the dark gray zone to the light zone? Yes or no. If it is not effective, again recommendation to improve the process. If it is effective, then then keep it updated. Update RR. Okay, with the current status. If it is accepted, so it means what do we do with the actively accepted risks or passively accepted risks? Is it active? Yes or no. If it is not active, it means that it is passive. So raise a CR to work around. Work around is alternate routes. I'll try to find out. If it is actively accepted, then what will I do?
Contingency.
Contingency.
Contingency will be there. Now the next question is the contingency that you have planned sufficient or not? So we have put 1 lakh for the slab, but is the damage only, or the impact of the risk is only 1 lakh or more? Contingency sufficient? Yes or no? If the contingency is sufficient, raise CR to use. If the contingency is not sufficient, raise CR to request for more. Okay. So this is what the action that, or the series of actions that we take as a part of monitor risks process. So the task 3 of process domain in exam content outline contains this: assess and manage risks. That is our topic for today, and this is what it does. Is that clear? Any questions? We had a detailed discussion today. Is it clear?
Prashant,
Yes, Harshita.
yeah, unfortunately, I missed. I joined really late.
I'm recording
So-
the session. It will be available on YouTube in a couple of days. So you can.
Oh, okay, that's
watch.
great. And also, could you please share this OneNote, please?
OneNote, how do I share? I can share
Hey.
this absolutely, but let me do that. Everything is not coming in one page. I think 2 pages are there. So let me try it in landscape. It's going to 3 pages. So it's better I follow 2 pages. Portrait, fit to page. I will use A3.
Even to number.
Sorry. What is bigger than this? Nothing is bigger than
Legal?
this.
Legal?
Legal won't be bigger than the A3. A3 is much bigger, no? A3 is double of A4.
Yeah, it is the biggest ever.
43 centimeters tabloid. But width-wise, it is less. Anyway, let's see how it goes. Yeah, it has come. Very good.
Yeah.
So now it is 1 page. So I will print it. I'll do one thing. Let me save it to my downloads folder. CFS. Are you there in any of the WhatsApp groups or
Yes, Prashant, the 180 batch.
180 batch?
Or
Okay.
yeah.
This guy is not printing now. Okay, I will try to send it across in a email, but I'm not sure. Adobe PDF, I'll try. Maybe.
Can you share it in alumni group also so that we can have it?
I'll just send an email because we'll not disturb everyone maybe. And then rest all
Okay.
will not understand that also. So there is no point in doing it. So let me save it. Yeah. Be on safer side. I'll save one more. Yeah. Yeah, it has come. Nice. So I can share this across. Maybe you can leave your email IDs in the chat, please.
So if you can, I think you can attach in the chat some files.
Ah, that will be better, right? So you'll be able to download it.
Download from here. Yes.
Wonderful. That'll be amazing. Thank you. It's quite big. It's around 2 MB. That's not much. Yeah. It's okay. Have you? I mean, are you able to see that now?
Yes, Prashant, I'm trying to
All
download.
right. Okay. Hari, you'll be able to download it now. I don't need your email IDs anymore. It's there in the chat. Please download it from the chat.
Yeah, we were able to download. Yeah.
Wonderful. So this is about the risk management, the task 3. So if there are no questions, then maybe we can wind up for today. Is that
Yeah,
fine?
but what are the
I don't
previous?
see it,
It
Prashant.
is
I
not
don't know.
reflecting in chat.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Document is
yeah.
not reflecting in chat.
same with me.
Scroll up a bit. Now I sent it
Well,
again.
yeah, it is available in that chart. Yeah.
Now I sent it again now. Can you please check?
Yeah, I was able to download it. I got the copy.
Yeah, we are able to download it, right? Correct.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
But it is not reflecting to me.
I logged in through the phone. Maybe that's why even I'm not able to
In
see
the
it.
phone you will not be able to. Definitely you'll not be able to.
Yeah, yeah.
Even I'm also using it.
If
Yeah,
someone
you're
could
Mr.
email me, I just sent my Harsha CK. That will be great.
I
Yeah, I'll
sent
do.
you a WhatsApp, Arshita.
Oh, you did? Okay, okay.
I did. Who else
Okay, got it, got it. Thank you, Prashant.
For me
connected on
also.
phone? Haribabu,
Yes, sir.
can you ping me on WhatsApp?
Sure, sir. 1 second.
You just ping me personally on WhatsApp. I'll send it across to you.
And Prashant,
Yeah.